Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette and our live stream. Now, feel free to ask me anything. Whether I reply to everything is up to me. No, just kidding. So, yes, neckwear. Oh, wow, I hear myself here. I've got to quiet that down so I have the chat going. Yes, neckwear. So, we have new knit ties, 10 colors, and these are kind of, I'm very proud of them because, you know, I create those designs and the colors, and there's a bit of trial and error connected with it because we chose like 8 colors for each tie. Now, when you look up close, you can see that. When you're further away, like this tie here, you don't necessarily see all these different colors that are incorporated into a tie. Now, how do they compare to our other knit ties? So you can see this is our existing knit tie. It's a little slimmer, right? So the new knit ties are a little wider. About, I would say, you know, this one is about 6.5 centimeters in width. This one is probably about 7.5, which is about 3 inches. And it just, you know, because knit ties are kind of straight at the bottom, on top where you see the tie knot, it looks more or less like a 3.5 inch tie in width, right? So the other thing we did here, and if you take a closer look, you can see the difference. There's a difference in the knit itself, right? This is a different knit. It's, I would say, more three-dimensional. It's a little thicker, which is what I wanted. And the inspiration, you know, for all of these 10 new knit ties was tweed. Because tweed, you know, oftentimes if you look from afar, it looks like one color, like this green one here, for example. But if you look up close, you know, you can find like écru, off-white, you know, different shades of green, orange, brown, and so forth. Like, it's always a mix, and when you mix colors like that into one color, it makes it super easy to combine. Because let's say, you know, you have something brown, like brown pants, boom, there's brown. You have green pants, boom, there's brown. Maybe you have a kind of pale orange shirt, boom, you got it there, right? So it's very easy to combine, and it has a kind of fall, wintry character. And that's just really, really nice. So we're trying to recreate that, which wasn't super easy because, you know, in the beginning, I did like some colors and I thought I had them done differently. And then I looked at them and they looked all very similar. So we had to try to change the colors, get it right. And yeah, so I'm really happy with the result of these ties. You know, every tie is going to be slightly different. They're never going to be 100% the same, and that's the beauty of them. It's that, you know, cri de la soie, like when you touch it, you can really kind of hear it. I think you can hear it, and you know they have a certain shape. They kind of keep your shape. So sometimes, you know, if you flatten them out and hang them again, they're yeah, just straight again. And you can also like put a cotton cloth over them and iron them. And that should be good. So you can get those in our shop. They're like, you know, $155, just like our other knit ties. But if you buy one, I think today through the end of the day Sunday, you'll get a $30 gift card. If you buy 3, you'll get a $125 gift card. And if you buy all 10, you get a $500 gift card. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah. Now let's see what questions we got here. I was like the ties, because from away they look like normal ties, and then up close you get some texture. Exactly, that's the beauty of them, right? And I think they're ideal travel ties. You know, I'm going to be traveling soon here, and you know, this is a tweed. If you look at this tweed, it has, you know, red and blue and green and gray and whatnot. And this tie works quite well with it. And from afar, you know, it looks like I have kind of a red tie and a blue jacket. And then as you get closer, you see there's much more depth to it, which is exactly what I was shooting for. What are the best knots for knit ties? It can be difficult to cinch down tightly and get a small knot. Yes, absolutely. So I would say, an oriental knot. This is a 4-in-hand knot. That's what you want, because otherwise, if you start trying, tying a Windsor knot or a double Windsor knot, it gets really big. And I think unless you want that look, or you have like a very spread collar and you're going for that, I think it's too much. So for me right now, I think this is a nice knot. And you can adjust it, right? You can make it a little slimmer, as you see here, just to see if it's still good. But you can, the tightness, and because it's textured, it holds the knot much better than, let's say, a silk satin tie or a natte tie, a fine weave. It really holds it much better. You also have fewer issues of the knot like sliding down because of all the texture that you have. What is better, 1940s trousers or 1960s? It depends, right? I mean, the 40s oftentimes they get rid of the cuff. There was like fabric rationing. The 60s is more of that Madman look. Depends on what you're into. Personally, I think I get more inspiration from the 30s. Even though I don't like the super wide pant leg, I like it a little slimmer. Alice Toad said, "Is it okay that my pocket square is the same color as the tie that I wear?" Sometimes you can buy like the tie and maybe a bow tie and even a cummerbund and a pocket square as a set with all the same color. To me, that screams, I don't know how to dress, right? I need someone else. I feel so insecure in my style choices that I have to kind of resort to this pre-selected set where all the fabric is the same. I think it's much more elegant if you, take a tie and pick up a color. Like here, for example, this is a silk wool pocket square. Yeah, right. It's one of our. It's just has a very nice hand. It's a very matte look, which I like with kind of this ensemble. And you see, there's areas of blue and red, and even though the red is not exactly the same, once it's in your pocket, it works quite well. And that's the beauty of these ties, Even if your pocket square is not exactly the same color, because it has so many colors and you pick something up, it harmonizes well. It looks neat, it looks harmonious, but it doesn't look like the exact same fabric. So I would say, as a stylish person, you probably will not use the exact same ones. And I've never seen a really well-dressed man or person doing that. So I would say don't do it. It looks bad. Bob Mary says, "Hi, mate." Thumbs up. Yeah, hi, mate. Maybe you're from Australia. I definitely want to go. I've heard like Melbourne is a really stylish city. So I look forward to going there one day. Create 6055. Will your video on how to wash suits at home work with a heavyweight fabric like tweed? When we made the video, we didn't test all the different suits, and I don't know what suit you have. It should work. Tweed is, not all tweed is alike. You can have very tightly woven tweed, you can have very loosely woven tweed. We also have a video about how to iron a suit, so I suggest you watch that, so you can, afterwards also iron it back in shape again. That would be super helpful. T Rushy Rush. Is it feasible to disassemble your suspenders yourself in order to swap out the leather ends and metal hardware? This would greatly improve the versatility of wearing braces with different outfits. Of course you can do it. The question is, what is your skill level, right? I read there's this guy, Baron von Elking. He wrote lots of things about men's fashion in Germany. And I once visited his daughter and got to see, more personal things and photos. And he wrote that, he would, after wearing a tie every time, someone would undo the tie in the back, open it up, iron it, and then sew it back together, right? I've never heard of anyone doing this in this day and age, but sure, if you either have staff or you want to do it yourself, Can you do it? Absolutely. I would say, over time, as you stitch more and more often on the elastic, it even gets a little shorter, probably, or the suspenders. Or, if you just repeatedly stitch in the same area, you weaken it. I think you're better off probably just buying a few different suspenders and then just choosing the one that works for you at any given point in time. MV8202, hello, taking into account different body types, is there a right width for a tie? I recently got some very slim ties, but not sure if they would look good on me. If you're a really, really big dude, right, and you're wearing a really skinny tie, that looks kind of odd. Likewise, if you're this really kind of thin guy and you're wearing, 4.5-inch ties, it can look goofy. Now, in general, I would say with regular ties, a good trick would be that, you take the tie and you put it on your lapel and you look, is this about the same size? And if it is, then it will always look harmonious and good. If you have these really wide lapels and then a skinny tie, it looks off. And people don't know why, but that's the reason. Now, it doesn't have to be exact. If the tie's here or if it's here, that's fine, right? But roughly, that's a really good kind of rule of thumb that will ensure you'll get a tie that looks right on you. Let's see here. Bruce Lee, Hayes, Vintiano 17. Hi, Raphael. Which ties do you recommend for a midnight blue double-breasted suit? So, that's a very kind of formal suit, right? So I could see if you wanted to have an extremely, outfit in the formal end, you can get like a grenadine tie in a very similar shade, right? That almost makes you funeral ready. It's extremely formal. Then I would get, a striped tie. I would get a lighter tie. Likely, you'll be wearing the suit with a white shirt or with a like light blue shirt, probably solid. I mean, you can do patterns if you want, stripes. But then, I also think when you put together colors, one thing to keep in mind is always the complementary contrast. And you don't have to remember it, you just go to like Google or like use AI and say, complementary color wheel. We also have a video about this, so you can just check. And then, you can kind of see the color and you see what's opposite of the color, right? So a midnight blue with like a bronze orange, I think would look really nice. We have this one tie, it's a shantung tie, and it has like a green stripe and orange and like off-white. I think that could look really cool and it would really pop, right? I also think a yellow could be really nice. Red, of course, red and blue, very common. You could also get like a much brighter blue. I would always try to say, what I always try to do is, if I have a suit like a plain suit or a navy blazer, I try to have different ties, also in different textures. So maybe get a woolen tie, right? Maybe, a cashmere grenadine, maybe a silk grenadine, maybe something smooth. Get a knit tie, for example, right? So I think for your midnight blue suit, this one here, it's a little more muted orange, or this one here will both work. You could also wear this one if those are a little too bright for you, right? Even a color like this, I think, can work because it has to be different enough. Don't get like a navy that's just slightly off from the midnight blue. Make sure it's either the same shade or like it's off enough that you can do it. I would avoid really like bright ties, like off-white is not a good choice, or like a light gray. Maybe medium gray can be really nice, like a flannel tie, with it to get the texture difference. I don't know you didn't share what material your suit was, but I think that is really, really nice. Okay, let's see here. What did I reply to? Whew, lots of questions. I guess I have to reply a little faster. Okay. Newton Yates, 9688. Hello, Newton. Newton is a good customer of ours. He came to the Belvedere Bash Always a pleasure to see you here. Great ties. Will the chinos and blazers ever go into production? Yes. So, we're always working on something. And when you do a production run, like ready to wear, it's different than when it's like made to measure, right? Made to measure, you just go through a book, you pick a fabric, and then you wear it. And if it doesn't work out 100%, it's okay. If you make a ready to wear thing and you have a fabric and then you realize it's really hard to iron, right? Or it wears out quickly in the crotch, then you have a big problem. So when we do something, we test it for a while, we wear it, we do like accelerated user testing. And so blazers right now, we put on pause a bit because we couldn't quite get what we wanted. The pants are underway. We're also gonna have summer pants. So stay tuned for 2026. That's the plan that we have them then. Tizonti 5989. Seeing your videos for a few years now. Awesome work. Always helping me. Thank you from Italy. Grazie mille. Do you have any advice for taller people? In terms of neckwear, I would say yes, get longer ties. These ties all come just in one length, kind of a regular length. If you wear, for example, the Fort Belvedere pants with a higher rise, I would say even if you're like 6'4", 6'5", you can still wear these ties just fine because it's going to end at kind of the waistband. Otherwise, if you have a lower rise, I would say go for longer ties. We have our 3-fold ties and longer ties, and we're also working on some longer knit ties. It's not typically something that you see, but always trying to help men of more modest height and taller people so they can get things right. For our longer ties, we keep the 3.5 inch width. For the short ties, we do 2.75 inch width because proportionally, most shorter men wear not the widest lapels, and so that is better for them. If you're bigger, you want everything to be proportional, so the super skinny tie is not going to look good on you. And then you can. It's main stuff, right? Like the stripes. If you have stripes that are vertical, it makes it a little taller. But as a tall person, you can typically wear bolder patterns because proportionally, it still looks nice. T Rushy Rush. What is the upper limited formality for knit tie? To go with casual outfits like odd jackets, but I find it difficult to pair them with worsted suits. Someone mentioned a midnight blue suit. I think it's this kind of juxtaposition where you take something, that is originally not meant together, but you can really kind of dress down your double-breasted midnight blue navy suit by maybe wearing it with, suede loafers and this knit tie, right? So you get a bit more versatility in terms of formality degrees by using accessories to make something more formal or less formal. And so, I wear them with suits. So for example, this knit tie, I think I could wear with like a pinstripe or a chalk strike suit. This one, right, or this one, probably I wouldn't, right? All sorts of odd shirt combinations, for example. They work great with flannel, of course, any types of tweed. But I think you can incorporate them in more formal suiting and jacketing if you want to kind of dress it down, right? If you want, like, let's say a stroller suit, like what Henrik Kjell wore. If you haven't watched that video, check it out. It's really nice. And for that outfit, I think the knit tie would be out of place, right? Let's go with like a silver tie, something formal, not this. More unga, more bunga. All right, I wonder what that means. Not really a neckwear question, but what do you think of Ask Oki's style? Personally, I find the silhouette a little cartoonish. I think Ask Oki has a very distinct style, very much inspired by the 1930s. He also has the build to wear it, and it looks good on him. I think he could wear other styles and would look as good or maybe even better. But that is his style. It's his style choice. It's unique, and I think it's fine. If that's what he wants to wear, excellent. Is that the only style every man should wear? Absolutely not. I think there is room for differences, and I think as Oki, they have very strong opinions, and this is my opinion. So we all can have different opinions. Alberto Gallardo, 5143. Thanks for teaching. Greetings. Greetings back. Tim Walser says, what knit tie colors should you buy first? Most people, I would say, go for, the safe choices like blue and red, right? Like burgundy red. You can wear it with a lot of things. You don't, nothing is wrong about that. But I would say, look at the wardrobe that you have, right? Let's say maybe you have this brown suit that you love, right? I think this will be a really great color with it. Or this will be really nice, So it depends a bit on your existing wardrobe and what you have. We do have a video about, the first ties you should buy. And I suggest you watch it because it gives you an idea of what thought process you're going through, what considerations, right? Because ideally, if you just have 10 ties, you don't have just 10 knit ties, right? You want a broader spread so you're prepared for different occasions and can make the right choices, right? It's good to have one striped tie. It's good to have a grenadine tie. Good to have a knit tie. Good to have a wool tie. All these types of things that you want to consider. Which hat is the best for a cold and wet climate? Says Alice Toad. I'm trying to figure that out myself. I live in a cold climate. It's not so wet, but a regular fedora here in the winter is not going to work because it's going to be negative 20 Fahrenheit. That's almost like negative 30 Celsius. Your ears freeze, right? You need something over it. So fur, like beaver fur or something like that, is typically pretty insulating. But I don't want to look like a trapper. So I'm still kind of figuring out what an ideal hat is. Now, when it's wet, right? Beaver hair often is finished that it's kind of wet, but if it's really cold, it can't be wet. You can have snow at maximum. So I'm not quite. Maybe a different definition of what cold means, But it's relative, right? If you're in Brazil, people think it's cold when it's like 10 degrees Celsius or 50 Fahrenheit. Here in Minnesota, that would not be considered cold. Mobird 0839. Was ist die beste Art und Weise, einen Schal so zu knoten, dass der Schal so von der Seite vorne entweder links oder rechts nach unten geht? Okay, so he asked about a way to tie a scarf. I suggest you watch the scarf tying videos, and then you can, figure out what you want to wear. Because, I don't even quite understand what you're saying here. So maybe you can rephrase that so it's a little more clear. Royal Bleu 3770. I own one blue suit that I use multi-purpose. What type of color suit should be my next choice? I'm starting over after losing my entire wardrobe. It depends a bit on you, the personality. If you want more of a wintry suit, I think a gray flannel can look really nice, and you can take the flannel pants and wear it with a navy blazer. I also think, if you want it, if you want the Wall Street look, well, maybe go with a pinstripe suit. If you want something more, unusual, I could see something like, a charcoal brown or like a charcoal green, like something unusual. It's a very personal choice, and just, telling you something what you get without knowing anything about you is kind of pointless. David Spurbury. Hey, David. I think this is a sign for me to finally get a knitted tie. Yes! You've seen David sometimes. Maybe he had been in some of our photo shoots and videos. He's local here in Minnesota. And what I like about his style is he likes heavy metal music and classic menswear, right? Not something that most people put in the same bucket. But I love it because, he has his own takes on things. Sometimes maybe like, skull linings or, elements of it, because it's just his style. So it's cool to see that there's many ways to classic style. Rouge Pilot 5113. When I first learned about knit ties from this channel, I wasn't too convinced. But when I found one at a flea market, I got hooked. Now I have 3, one which I purchased the other day. Well, I'm glad we could inspire you to try something new. And it's very normal. I remember there was a time when I felt like I couldn't wear day-wear bow ties, and it wasn't me. And then I just forced myself to wear them, and then I'm like, oh, I actually like it. And it's maybe like, I don't know, beer. Very few people drink a Pilsner for the first time and say, this is the best thing I've ever had, right? It's an acquired taste. And same with clothes. You know, there can be things that are acquired tastes. They look great with tweed. Yes, they do. They absolutely do. Because, you know, it's silk, so you get a bit of a sheen, but it's not as bright as, like, you know, a satin, or like, you know, most jacquard woven ties from like the $5 store. You know, they're usually quite shiny, and they're not that. They're a little more muted. I find it to be very tasteful and elegant. I have 50 ties, but I'm limited to Windsor knots when I wear high-rise trousers to pick up the slack. I see. Well, you could also just get a shorter tie and then get the knot you want. But yeah, sometimes, you know, the other thing you can do is you can just, you know, if you want to tuck the tie into your waistband, that can be an option too. Or the other thing you can do is you can, you know, do like, let's say, a 4-hand knot and then wrap it around once more. If you want, you know, that can be another way, so you don't have to always go with the same knot if you don't want to. If it's a hallmark of yours, fine, go for it. Hello, off-topic question, but one that may be an idea for a video. How would you dress sartorial in a blue collar setting? What are some clothes you may recommend? Thank you. You know, yes, clothing has to be functional, right? So maybe you wear denim, right, and it's cold outside. Maybe you could get a pair of corduroy trousers, or maybe a moleskin trousers, right? You can have a more, you know, casual jacket rather than a traditional kind of sport coat, so to speak, right? There's lots of options these days, much more than like 20 years ago. You know, different safari jackets. I've picked up some on like eBay, you know, old Ralph Lauren ones can be really nice. I think going with that, right? And then there's, I mean, lots of boots out there. You can definitely get, you know, something, you know, the Red Wing type of boots, you know, Bluntstone, you know, Thursday boots. It's all more like on the rugged end. And you can make, you know, you can maybe get something a little more refined, you know. If you look at like, I don't know, I just did a video, a lot about Chelsea boots, right? So like a Year in Chelsea boot, or J. Fitzpatrick, like they're very elegant lasts. You know, Crockett and Jones. There's so many places out there where you can get something a little more refined, so you can still keep the boot, but have a little more refined boot than the typical work boot. So that's how you would kind of just dress things up a little bit and still feel comfortable with what you're wearing. Let's see here. What are the best suits and sport jackets to wear shantung ties with? I like wearing them with like worsteds. You can also wear them with tweed. You can wear them with flannel. With shantung, if you're not familiar with it, it typically means, you know, it's a silk that isn't, where the yarn isn't just straight, but you have little thicker areas and knobs. And when you weave it, you see that. So it naturally has a more casual character, so to speak. And some, you know, sometimes it's the warp and weft have a different color, so you get slightly of a changeant effect. It can be crisper in the hand, depends on how it's finished. You can also finish it with silicone, which makes it really soft and nice. But it definitely has more of a casual character. And so I would say, you know, you can wear them with all sorts of casual outfits and fabrics. You know, you can wear it with fresco. You can wear it with shark skin. I personally wear it with everything. I just, you know, make sure that, hey, maybe it's not the right funeral tie, or like, you know, stroller suit tie, because it's a bit too casual for that. Okay, that's a lot of ties made. Hello, Raphael, nice to finally meet you. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. What do you think about Thomas Farthing? I think they sell great clothes at very decent prices. I think Thomas Farthing does amazing photo shoots. You know, you look at them and I'm like, that's really, really nice. I also love that they take, you know, vintage cuts and vintage inspired styles and make them into clothes. They also use very nice fabric. You know, they have like Marling and Evans fabrics and heavier fabrics. I think that's really nice. I visited their store while I was in London last time. And, you know, folks, they were really nice. I tried on a bunch of stuff, and it just didn't fit me right. You know, the jackets, it was sometimes was tight on top in the sleeves and also the shirts. So I think, you know, if it fits you, it can be a really good style. I also think they're not like super expensive. And if you like that vintage aesthetic, it can be cool. Sadly for me, none of their stuff worked even remotely. Okay. Best stylish boots for bad winter weather with salt and slush. This is disastrous for leather, but I want something to wear with tailoring. Duck boots, galoshes, hunter wellies. What would be best? Says T Rushy Rush. You know, living here in Minnesota, I have a range of cold winter boots, and I want to make a video about it because they're harder to find. So typically what I do is I go with brands that are in colder climates. You know, Canada, Sweden, Iceland, Norway, right? Because sometimes you get these like winter boots from Italy. Well, you know, in many places they don't really have these cold winters, and so I rather trust areas where they get that. So I found, I can't recall the name, but I got a pair of like, it's a pair of suede boots, but they're kind of waterproofed, you know, nice shearling lined, and they have a sole where you can kind of, and it's actually an Italian sole. So, I mean, Italy has the Alps, so they also get cold weather, but it depends. Sort of maybe said Portugal, you know, Portuguese are not experts on like cold weather shoes. But this Italian sole, it's kind of a, you know, you take it out, you flip it around, and then you have little spikes. So when it gets really slippery outside, which here, you know, in Minnesota, it's very typical. You have a lot of snow, and then it melts and it freezes, and it's super icy, and you slip and fall if you don't have studded shoes. So having it in one is, I think, quite practical. I have like a pair of like Heinrich Dinkelacker. They have some nice fur-lined boots. Ludwig Reiter. We did a nice factory tour, so check it out. They have some nice fur-lined boots. So I always just look for, you know, good fur-lined winter boots because that keeps you warm. And then they come with leather and they look stylish. They have a good kind of commando sole, and it keeps you warm, and you can wear it that way. I'll be traveling to Mesa, Arizona, and New Zealand next year. Where are some good places to shop? Says a metal fetcher. I don't know. I haven't been to either of those places, so I suggest you, you know, Google, use AI, and figure it out. Yeah, so the German guy wants his scarf to be, you know, symmetrical or asymmetrical. You know, it depends on what scarf knot you use, right? If you take a scarf and you just hold it over like this, now it's on this side, now it's on that side. But that's not very warm. It's a more elegant way to do it. But if you have scarves, typically, you know, you can take it, put it around like this, and you can do it like once like this. And then, you know, you can just adjust it a little bit if you want it, or adjust it a little bit there and want it. So scarves, you know, depending on where you want to hang it, I just say, try a few different scarf knots, see what you like, right? You can do this one, I can do it like this, and have it a little bit on this side, or you just do it the other way, and, you know, have it here. So it's kind of matter of how you tie it and what you do. I noticed the cuffs in your shirt. Where did you get that idea? Where did you have it made? Oh, you know, this is actually a shirt from Eton, and I just got it that way. The button was on the other side. It's just different, but it's a barrel button cuff. It's quite tight. I like quite tight cuffs. Do you know Matt Spicer of Bond Suits blog? You know, I've never met him in person. I've had email conversations with him, but that's about it. What do you think about homage watches, like divers or tank watches from something like Cartier? Are they good or just considered wannabe? Divans Who's 7363. You know, frankly, it's like, just understand what it is that you want, right? Do you want a status symbol? You know, I have a friend, she's a business owner, and she's in lots of negotiations. And so she got like a rose gold Daytona, you know, because she's like, if I have that on my wrist, I automatically get more respect from the people I negotiate with, right? So for her, it wasn't about the watch itself. It was a means to be taken more seriously, right? Very legitimate reason. If, you just like the watch and you want to wear it, great, I know, like there's lots of watch YouTubers out there. They're so famous they don't even wear watches anymore because they're afraid that they'll get targeted, mugged, beaten up, whatever. So, you're a big watch YouTuber who never wears watches, right? Why? For practical reasons. So they're all things to consider, right? My philosophy is, if I like it, I wear it. But I also, I have my own business. I'm my own boss. I don't need to think about what my boss thinks of me, if I have a nicer watch than him, all that stuff, right? I just live my life. So I don't know where you're at and what works for you, but yeah, that's how I'd approach it. What are your thoughts on jackets with belted and pleated backs? I like them, as you can see. I think they're great. I also like, having more movement through pleats in the back. It's especially nice if I'm, filming, for example, and you need that range of movement. I love it. I think they're great. And whenever I see one, I'm like, ooh, that's nice. I'm interested in it. I want to get more of it. I can even see, like adding it to like a navy worsted suit. I've never done it with like a double-breasted jacket because obviously it's like, the styles don't fit. But in this day and age, you're going to be the only one in many crowds that wears a suit. So then, if you have that flex in the back and it makes you more comfortable, why not? I think it's great. Hello, Raphael. I noticed you do wear knit tie a lot. Can you tell us what's great about knit tie compared with other ties? Oh, maybe I missed someone. Sorry. I'll get there. Here, Corvin Aurora says, "Hi, Raphael. I'm colorblind and it leads me to having trouble matching. Any advice on how to better match with this difficulty?" I'm not colorblind and I don't fully understand what it is that you perceive, because do you just see everything as being a specific shade of gray? Or, yeah, I would say, my first guess is to lean on someone who can maybe help me come up with things. And I would probably, if I were you, I would take the stuff I have and kind of categorize and maybe say, hey, this jacket is blue, brown, charcoal. The ties I have, and you can work with someone, say this is orange, this, and this. And then you can, even with AI, say, hey, I have this, what would look good with it? And try to understand what would work well. But, I haven't experienced it, so it's really hard for me to tell you what you should do. Hi, Raphael, what would you recommend to do when a tie knot is either too small, long blade, or the knot is big, but the blade is above the belt? I followed many tutorials and can't figure it out. Well, first of all, I would say, there's different tie knots, right? Oriental and four in hand use up the least amount of tie. If your tie is too long, a bigger tie knot will help you eat up more of that tie, right? And you can even do a four in hand knot, wrap it around once, like I mentioned earlier. So you can adjust it. And it also helps to have just ties of different lengths in your wardrobe because, not all of your pants are going to be the same height, And so it's nice to have a little bit of a variance. So sometimes you're like, ooh, I need a really short tie now. Well, you have one, you can use it, you can get the knot you want, and you're fine. Or you tuck it in. But typically, shorter men have that issue because there's a lot of long ties, and it's really hard for them to find something that works. And they also don't want that big knot if they have that small head. I hear you. That's why we created ties for shorter men, so they also can wear stuff that works better for them. Negative 3411. However, I noticed you do wear knit ties a lot. Can you tell us what's great about knit tie compared with other ties? Well, first of all, I think they're great for travel. They don't wrinkle. You can like push it in here, and then you do it like this, and they're fine again, right? You can really like do like this, and then you just do it like this, and it looks fine. you can't do that with a regular knit tie without seeing the wrinkles and having to iron it first, right? It also adds more texture, right? It's, if I have a worsted suit and I wear a tie like this, it adds more texture. It's a visual interest. So that's what I like about knit ties. And then here, of course, you know, the color depth, this kind of tweed effect. I mean, you can make ties out of tweed, right? And get the same effect, totally. I just like having the range. And, you know, if you haven't seen my wardrobe video, I have a lot of ties, right? I don't just have knit ties. I have probably more knit ties than other people have ties altogether. But, you know, we all have certain interests where we are, you know, more into than others, right? We just have one car, you know. Other people have 5 cars, like whatever. If you're into cars, you have more cars. I have more ties. So each to their own. Which tie knot and color is the best for a gray jacket? White and soft green shirt and brown trousers. Well, Alice, you know, I don't know what you look like, so it's hard to tell, right? But just by the information you gave me, a gray jacket, soft green shirt, brown trousers. I would say I would probably try these, try this, and try that one here. And in case you join us a little late, you know, we're launching 10 new model knit ties. They're a little wider than our traditional knit ties. They have a different knit. They're made with, you know, like each with 8 different colors, and they're inspired by tweed. If you buy one today, you get a $30 gift card. If you buy 3, you get a $125 gift card. If you buy all 10, you get a $500 gift card to the shop. That deal ends, I think, end of day Sunday. So let me see here. What tie knot colors? Yeah, that was it. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on jacket with belt and pleated backs? I reply to that. Can you recommend what outfit is best for a mid-20s person for corporate? You know, corporate, yes. You know, you can wear, like if you have a gray suit and a navy suit, and you know, a white shirt, a light blue shirt, maybe a pink shirt, and then some you know, ties and blue and red. You're not going to be stand out. Get a wide pocket square. You know, simple. Get some black shoes. Great. You're just going to fit in, and it's all going to be good. Are you going to reveal what the big announcement is? Well, we're announcing our ties today. That's, you know, we just launched those, and you can buy those now. You couldn't buy them before, so that's the announcement. Divey as a watch, I've noticed something. It's very difficult to definitively identify a watch from any distance. More than arm's length, you can get an original, but homage will work. Yes, you know, I mean, if you go to Europe, you know, it's like every second server is wearing a Rolex Submariner. I'm not good enough a watch guy to tell you, you know, if it's a fake or not. You know, you can have homage watches, whatever, like go do whatever kind of floats your boat. But I can guarantee you that not all the servers and retail store workers in Europe, you know, have genuine Rolex watches. T. Rushy Rush, camel polo coat over tuxedo, is it rakish or wrong? I would not do that if I had the choice. You know, if I only had a polo coat and was cold, I would wear it. Can it be rakish? I think so. You know, it depends on how the rest of the outfit is. Is it, you know, to the point? How is the fit? What are the details like? The beauty is today, you know, you can do stuff like that, and you can get away with it when it looks unique. You know, I remember Jack from our team. You know, he wore kind of one of those Southwestern-inspired knit kind of cardigans, right? And it, for black tie, and it looked good. So if you have a good sense of style, I think most things can work. If you don't, you know, even very kind of formally correct things look like shit. So, how do you wear summer white khaki or lighter color pants without VPL? I wear briefs, but the line always shows on sides. Tried command boxers, but then my package in front is too revealing. Oh, it says toast is good 35. You know, it took me a while to understand what you're talking about. I think, you know, if you can see the seams of your underwear when you're wearing your pants, chances are the fabric is too thin or your pants are too tight. I've never had that issue, so I would say, you know, just get a slightly looser cut and maybe get fabrics that drape better and you won't have that issue. But that being said, I would suggest you always wear an assless thong. No, just kidding. What are your thoughts on wearing pants and a waistcoat of one color but wearing a contrasting jacket? I think it can look really nice. Pants, waistcoat of one color. So if you have a three-piece suit, for example, you can do that and then wear a different jacket. You can also do it the other way around, where you wear jacket and waistcoat in one color and different pair of pants. Both are, you know, great ways to get more use out of your existing wardrobe and create a quite different character in terms of the look. Do you personally notice any difference in comfort between a machine-made shirt and a handmade shirt? People talk about a handmade shirt being more flexible, but I don't know. I can really feel it myself. You know, it depends a bit on how your shirt is made. Yes, a handmade stitch, it's a little more flexible, right? But I would say if you have a really well-cut shirt, I don't feel the difference, right? It's more of a like appreciation of the craft. I think if the sleeve is attached by hand, maybe there's a little more give. But I also find that if you wear your shirts hard, the hand sewing comes undone a little more easily. Now, you know, there's like 100 Hands, for example. They have their kind of gold line, I think, where everything is done by hand. And it's a meticulous piece of craftsmanship, you know, it's really impressive. And I've never had anything come undone, right? And the buttonholes and everything is done really nicely. But, you know, from a functional point of view, if your buttonhole is neatly machine stitched or handmade, there's no real difference. It's just a look. You know, do you like the handmade buttonhole? Like on a jacket, I'm like, yes, the handmade buttonhole looks better because you can use a nicer silk thread and all that stuff. But, you know, that's maybe someone invents a machine that creates a really nice buttonhole. We'll see. But for shirts, I would say, no, give it a try and see what it is that you like. But the fit is probably more important, I would say, than that. I have only one suit inspired by James Bond, Sean Connery, the gray suit with pale blue Oxford, black Oxford shoes, and black and gray plaid tie. Yeah, you know, and if that works for you, that's great. You know, sometimes people want to recreate a certain outfit. You know, you can do that. Sometimes people want, you know, that certainty that they have a uniform. I think like Obama, you know, he was like, I don't want to think about what I wear, so I have the same outfits, and I rotate between that, and that's what I wear. I don't want to waste any mental energy on this. To me, like, this is fun, you know. I want to create a different outfit. Like I said, I don't think I've ever worn my entire outfit head to toe the exact same twice, you know. But some people do that. They're like, ooh, I always like this tie with this. You know, it's very formulaic. It's born out of a kind of maybe insecurity, right? Where you're like, I don't know what looks good, but I know this looks good, so I resort to that. But it's a personality thing, you know. Some people like to go to McDonald's in every country they go to because they know what a Big Mac is going to taste like. I don't. I want to have different flavors. I want to try different things. But, you know, I have ADHD. That's part of it. You know, I like novelty. So each to their own. Hi, Raphael, it's Space Yukon 941. I have a medium blue sport coat, a medium gray sport jacket from Isaiah, and a medium brown and gray trousers. What's the first tie I should get? By the way, I got the Isaiah jacket for $24. Congratulations. And for everyone else, if you want to learn how to score Isaiah jackets for $24, we got a video of you about my eBay tips. So check that out. Again, you know, I don't know your hair color. I don't know your skin color. I don't know what else you do. But we have that video at what first ties you get. I think if you put in the work and think about what makes sense, this will definitely help you. If you get a tie that is a little bit lighter in the color than your jacket, let's say you have a brown and you get a tie that contains brown, usually that can work, or it can be quite contrasting. Use the complementary contrast wheel and see what goes well with the jacket colors you have, and that will help you go in the right direction. Do you think Sea Island cotton is worth the money? Well, the problem with Sea Island cotton is this. The genuine West Indian Sea Island cotton, they're small islands. There's very limited supply. Yet, if you look at all the labels that claim they have Sea Island cotton, I'm like, that's incredible, right? It's like, I think, strawberry yogurt. The amount of strawberries you need to create all the strawberry yogurt that's out there, it's unbelievable. But so there's a lot of fake stuff out there. So if something says Sea Island cotton, doesn't necessarily mean it's Sea Island cotton. So I don't know if you had that. Typically, the Sea Island cotton, what you get is that you get a longer fiber, which makes a yarn that's less likely to pill. A yarn is fine, it is soft. So I do have West Indian Sea Island cotton shirts. They always say genuine West Indian Sea Island cotton. Now, could someone fake these labels? Absolutely, right? So it comes down to trust, that maybe you buy from this brand and you trust that they actually got the real Sea Island cotton. Is it a nice cotton? Is it a quality cotton? I will always gravitate towards it. If it's a choice between, this is whatever cotton and this is West Indian Sea Island cotton, I would always get the West Indian Sea Island cotton because I know that it's of a high quality, which with the others, I don't, right? Okay, I started... thong it is, good, you're wearing the thong. Hello, I started watching Gentleman's Gazette for half a year now. Thanks to your wonderful channel, I switched from baggy skinny jeans to tailored jeans, Hawaiian shirts, loafers. Good stuff. Well, I'm glad. And ultimately, we're all on a journey, right? And it's like, it can be fun. And sometimes, you can make 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You can take a left, you can take a right, and you can make a U-turn and come back again. They're all different options. And it's, style, in my opinion, shouldn't feel like a prison, where there's only certain things you can do at certain times and things you cannot do. To me, it's like a way to express yourself and, your current mood, your mindset, your ideas, and it should be fun. So if that's what we can instill in you, thumbs up. Can you help me combine a cardigan? I tried to layer a rather dark blue turtleneck with an even darker blue cardigan, or with black trousers. Yes, don't do that. Don't wear black trousers or black anything with navy blue or dark blue. It's not gonna look good. I would say, if you have a cardigan, pairing with a turtleneck can work, maybe in rare circumstances, but the easiest way to do it is just wear it with like a shirt, maybe a knit polo. Try to get some contrast in. That way, the outline of the cardigan is clearly defined, and yeah, that's what I would do. I wear it a lot. I like cardigans, around the house, the cozy warm. I have different weights of cardigans, different materials. A heavy wool cardigan makes you really warm. It's great if you're in a colder place, but it makes you sweat if you're in a warm place. So having different cardigans for different climates is the key there. You have ADHD. Then you and I have that in common. Yes, I guess so. It's like a spectrum thing, right? And ultimately, our brains all work differently. You can have autism spectrum, ADHD, neurodiversity, dyslexia. There's lots of elements, and oftentimes, if you have ADHD, you also have parts of this, and you can have it at different levels. And you just have to understand how your brain works and how you can kind of, make everything work for you in the world, right? For me, for example, with ADHD, I'm like, I'm thinking about this and I think about that, lots of shiny objects. So I started working with an assistant, right? And so every time I have a meeting, she gives me a call, 1 minute beforehand, not 10 minutes beforehand, because if she calls me 10 minutes beforehand, I'll forget about it again afterwards. So it's like, understand, what your strengths are and what your weaknesses, and then lean into it. I don't know, I'm very good at coming up with problem solutions and thinking outside the box. That's like a positive of ADHD, and you can lean into that. Other people can't do that. If there's something that's out of the ordinary, they kind of freeze and don't know what to do, and you maybe come up with a solution that works. So that that's what you have as an advantage, basically. Hope everyone is having a great day. All right, like the positivity. Continue my last comment. I also became half an addict with buying new suits, thrifted usually because it's a nice feeling to have them. Bought pinky ring, camel vintage coat, which got compliments. Well, great. I'm glad I can help you evolve in your style. Do you recommend jock straps when working out? I don't know what that is. I've noticed in gym locker room, some men at the gym wear them often, and I'm never sure what type of gym activity they're helpful for. I don't either. Pat Mosby said, what's the difference between gabardine ties and knitted silk ties? Well, gabardine is like a weave, right? And when you weave something, you have threads that go the long way, and you have things that go across the way, warp and weft. And so, with weaving, like some things go up, and then you shoot something through, and it goes down, and you shoot something through, right? The consequence of that is when you have a fabric, there's stretchiness only in one direction, but not in the other, right? So for example, if we take this fabric here, if you see, I'm pulling now, there's very, very little stretchiness. But when I pull it in this way, there's more stretchiness, right? That's called on the bias. So ties are typically cut on the bias. So when you pull them down, they're very flexible in the length. Now a knit tie, on the other hand, it's what modern marketing would call 4D flex. You can kind of pull them this way. You can pull them this way. You can pull them in this way. You can pull them in this way. It's flexible in all different ways. So in German, for example, the term for knit and fabric are different things. In the US, it's like the Inuit have 7 words for snow. We just say snow. German has like different words for belt. There's that tells you by the name, is it just a strap of leather, or is it actually crafted in a different way? And it's the same with, there's knits and there's fabrics. In the US, if you have fabric, it can contain knits, but I think it's conceptually not as nice because you can't be as precise in your language. So that's the difference between a knit and a fabric. What's the difference between grenadine ties and knitted silk ties? Oh, interesting, and again, Germans, they're very precise. Like a grenadine is called a Schlinger. And it's not your usual weave, but it's still a weave. But, Schlingen means to kind of wrap yourself around something. That's why a grenadine is different and the look is different than a, most normal woven fabrics. But again, they're also not knitted. Expound upon your struggles and hands with ADHD, please. Do you advocate for medication or go wild or natural? This channel is about classic men's style, not really so much about ADHD. I'm not taking medication currently, but I'll try it, and see what I need. The good thing about it is you can take it, it's not a permanent thing. If you're like, I need to focus hardcore now today, pop a pill and go with it, I've talked to people who are like, it's life-changing. I've talked to people who are like, I feel like I'm not myself. It's a very personal thing. Just have to figure it out. By the way, if you haven't noticed yet, we've launched 10 knit ties today. They're wider than our previous knit ties. They're about 3 inches wide. There's 10 colorways. Each colorway has 8 colors in it, which makes it super easy to combine. Because, I could wear like this tie here right now, right? Because it has some blue elements in it. I could wear maybe even this one now. I wouldn't do this one. Yellow, I think I could wear yellow. This one, yeah, I could wear this one. This one, maybe, but yeah, there's always things you can do, but these ties are just really nice, and we're giving you gift cards. If you buy 1, you get a $30 gift card. If you buy 3, you get a $125 gift card. If you buy all 10, you get a $500 gift card. And yeah, go check them out. with the 10 different colors, and you can see with little videos. We have really up close shots, so you can really see the colors and see what you're getting. Okay, so we're close to 1 now, so I'm just going through the questions we have here, and then we'll wrap it up. Oh man. Okay. Use small notes and reminders also. Raphael, the tie and jacket combo is absolutely peak. Thank you. Do you think synthetic fabrics will ever outclass natural fabrics? No. One of the big, I mean, maybe one day, who knows, right? Never say never. Maybe someone comes up with super cool stuff. But so far, there's certain things that are great, right? If you want a fabric that has, PFAS on it and it's super waterproof, cool, that works, then, we learn that it's bad for the environment and whatnot. But can it be? Yes. But do I usually gravitate towards synthetic fabrics? No. Raphael, I'd like to thank you for starting my journey in menswear. It's been over 4.5 years ago. I was 10, now I'm 15. Wow, you started early. For the extensive collection of 1880s, 1930s style clothing. That's awesome. They're limited, so the fact that you have them is awesome. So would you say that combining blue with black wouldn't look good? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Dark blue. Don't do dark blue. If you get a bright blue, that can work well with black, but yes, you don't want shades that are too close to each other. It just never looks good. Hey, just want to ask which color of ties could match with a navy blue suit. We talked about that. We also have videos around that. How to combine your pocket square with your tie and stuff like that. That's a good video. And then also what ties you should get. Just check those out. We answered all these questions already. When do you recommend a tie that is smooth to the touch versus one with a texture? When you feel like it. Or if you want something more traditional, formal, like a fine jacquard weave or like a printed tie, right? If I want that color, if I feel like wearing that, if it makes sense from like the knit ties, for example, you don't have bold patterns in there. Now this makes it a little more, like a solid, but not. But if I want, if I have a solid shirt and a solid suit, and I'm like, I want to add a pattern, that's when I would go with like a printed tie, for example, or a jacket woven tie. For overcoats, how long is too long? Mid shin looks good to me, but I don't know about lower shin or ankle length. Very personal thing. The longer the coat is, the warmer it keeps you. So if that's a consideration, some people like it, just above the knee, just below the knee, on the knee. I like it below the knee. I'm in Minnesota here. It gets cold. So just above ankle is my preference, but it varies on body types. Okay, now you can shop our knit ties. I just want to say that I'm officially 0.3% top viewer of the channel according to YouTube. Says Nissi Farhi 1786. Interesting. I didn't know that YouTube, YouTube always does something new, which is great, but I didn't know that you can log in and it tells you what percentage of a viewer you are. That's pretty cool. So if there's like 1 million views a month or 2 million, whatever, and you get, 1% is already pretty good. 0.1 is even better. But I don't know where I can see that. I have to look that up. It's pretty cool. Fur-lined lapels and overcoats, gaudy or tasteful? I'm looking at alpaca-lined Keeper's tweed overcoat for really cold weather, but I'm hung up on this. If you go back to like the 20s, 19 teens, like a lot of men wore it. I mean, fur is really great in terms of warmth. Like a fur collar, I like them. My wife has a lot of them. Arctic fox looks really nice. You can have like plucked beaver, and if they're like made in a lapel shape, it's really an added layer of warmth. I have no problems with wearing fur. Some people do. If you get vintage fur, why not? Keeps you warm. Here in Minnesota, they started trapping beavers again because there's a lot of them. So they call it sustainably harvesting it. Yeah, I mean, we can discuss it, right? But real plucked beaver fur is awesome. kind of sheared and taken the thicker guard hairs out, so you just have the finer under hair. Very nice. Will Forbello ever sell khakis? It's too hot where I live, wear my corduroys all year round. Yes, yes, we're adding some testing bunch of summer fabrics and khakis right now, so we'll have something for you. I remember watching you all the way back when I was 12 or 13-year-old. I'm 20 now. Fun fact, I've seen your video of the Mont Blanc 149 about 1,000 times and used to see it every day. All right. Some people like a routine and watching the same stuff every day. Good. Raphael, thanks for sharing all your knowledge with us. What do you think of horizontally striped ties? Too dated, 90s or classic? You know, if you do that, you typically have to also weave it differently. Otherwise, you can't cut a tie on the bias. You know, it's like horizontally striped shirts, right? It's like if you have all the other stuff and you want one, give it a try. See what it does, see how you like it. A lot of people don't like it, but that's okay. You know, it's a way for you to stand out from the crowd. I love a good fur lapel furling overcoat, unless perhaps it's a bright red overcoat. Yes, yes, of course. Jessica, Back to the Future, would you prefer to go back and be a mobster with their wealthy rich suits or an aristocrat with royal attire? Well, you know, I think, yes, if you know, it's always kind of nostalgic to think, oh, if I'd go back, you know, and I was the owner of the big, you know, country estate, and I'd do this and this and that. Realistically, you'd probably be like, you know, the scullery maid that maybe gets raped at night and whatnot, right? Like, we have this idea of what Downton Abbey was like, but actually, if you look back, it was really hard for the majority of people, and very few enjoyed a lifestyle that was really good. So, you know, statistically, all of us would have a much harder life going back, most likely. And so, yeah, it's oftentimes there's a lot of romanticization there, which, you know, Downton Abbey didn't show you all the shitty stuff. They made it look like glam and nice, but it was not historically accurate. Watching videos also convinced me to start wearing pants with cuffs. I fell in love with them so much that I actually don't own any pants without cuffs, though I should have some. Well, great, you know, add a little bit of weight, have a certain look. You can decide what height you want on your cuff. It's very good. All right, we're at 1 hour and 7 minutes. Thanks for tuning in. If you're in the market for knit ties, check out our new knit ties. You'll get a free gift card for the shop until the end of Sunday. And I'd call that a wrap. Thank you.